Welcome to Alan Clements Uncensored. Thank you for listening to my podcast. A few notes about the presentation. After years of scripted talks, many of them methodically outlined, some even memorized, at least in part, I decided to drop that style and simply speak spontaneously from my heart. So that's what I do. My talks are raw and improvisational. I make them up as I go along. In addition to my World Dharma talks, I also offer at times readings from my books, Instinct for Freedom, A Future to Believe in, The Voice of Hope, and Wisdom for the World. I also offer readings of my personal notes, sometimes guided meditations, dialogues from my World Dharma public forums, interviews from radio and television, and sections from my show, Spiritually Incorrect Meets Relationship Incorrect, The Great Reckoning, and the occasional conversation with someone I find interesting. I also want to express my deep gratitude to the people who have made donations to me, either a one-time or recurring donation, either on the support page of my website, alanclements.com, or pledged a monthly amount as little as $1, perhaps $3 or even $5 a month, through my Patreon site. If you're inspired to do so, you can support this podcast and my work by making a monthly pledge at Patreon. That's patreon.com, patreon.com/Alan Clements, and there you'll find my page. You can use a credit card or pay through PayPal, and your monthly pledge, that's what it takes, just a few minutes to set up, allows me not only to do my work, it allows me to create my art, use my voice, speak my Dharma, free of commercial consideration or advertisers. Thank you from my heart for taking the time to listen to my podcast, and thank you for your generous support. I hope you enjoy the presentation. If you can allow me to go a little bit crazy tonight. I've been alone all day, all week, all month, my whole life, watching my breath come and go, in breath, out breath. Chronic meditator in rehabilitation to real life. I'm doing a reversal where mindfulness now is ubiquitous, from Forbes 500 to universities, to even education in elementary schools. And it's something I did when I was a teenager into my 20s, and then took it seriously and became a monk and ordained and dove deeply into what I found to be the best kept secret of all, which I would say is still a secret, my mind. So if you can allow me to speak about why being human, why being alive, why being, besides the obligation of being embedded in this terminal circumstance called existence, it's obviously mortal by birth, but what makes being human to me? What makes being alive in this world, this very moment now, this planet? I wish I could even just feel the orbit of the planet. To think that there are people upside down right now, that there are trees growing with the roots facing up, and there are clouds down there like 7,000 kilometers in the middle of this ball. Is it liquid heat? Like a deep, deep, unforgiving inferno? And with all the crying about fossil fuels today, what little I know about them, it's sort of like semi-decomposed, what's that word? Organic life? It's amazing that the most basic fundamentals of existence, trees, animals, insects, birds, water, air, oxygen, DNA, God, hell, the devil, all that stuff decomposed, transformed into a substance diversified by liquid and oxygens and gases that when burned is a poison for its inhabitant. And it's like, what a fucked up deal that is. I mean, who the hell would think that all of us, when we just kind of like become flesh and bones and decompose and the worms take us down into the earth and all of a sudden the heavens arise and there's a big angel, that the fucking asshole turns out to be a sociopath. That life turns out to be pathological by function of birth. We kill ourselves to survive. Oh, it can be. There's a safe energy. What is a safe energy? What I beg of you, Alan, to define a safe energy. Where is there true hope in a circumstance that by the very function of the planet, it's terminal? What's 1 billion years from now? Is it to save our soul versus the future of life being immeasurably so distant that we can't have a field of compassion that reaches way, 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 way beyond? I always thought compassion was for the person right in front of you. But how blind and simple, I dare say autistic and limiting that was. Who ever really taught me, Alan, to care for that which is unseen beyond the horizon? Always me being in some self-centered necessity to survive, to emote, to desire, to fear, to be in process, to me looking mindfully at me, to figuring out the me dilemma. Where did I pick up that psychological habit called spirituality over there in India and Burma and Thailand, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Laos, China? Why was it so cool to abandon the West, to seek the East, to find a teaching to resolve my Western cultural conditioning? Today, here I am at this age of life, and all I can say to myself and my friends and my family and my daughter and the people near me and the people that I love, the people that I really care about, life everywhere, is look into your heart with all the power of your courage and find and feel what is it that's hidden in that soul, that crevasse, that expanse of light called inner beingness. Look beyond the valley, go over the river, walk up to the mountaintop and look at your own soul, Alan, and see what that treasure is that you have that is not buried in your soul, but is in the sky as a northern star on the horizon of your hope. What gives me the reason to live and breathe today is to envision the possibility of making real on the promise of a full breath. Not that I watch in breath and out breath and be mindful of my mind, thinking, hearing, seeing, feeling, tasting, touching, emoting, feeling desire and fear. No, it's the hope to feel on the horizon of the unknown, the possibility to make real on the promise of a vision. A vision, for me, number one, of caring for things larger than my own fucking self-interest. I'm sorry to use an expletive, but it's meaningful to use the fucking word here. To care about things larger than your own self-interest, to find a spiritual dimensionality, an inner beingness that transcends you into the South African concept of Ubuntu. I cannot be who I am without you. You, everywhere. We cannot be who we are without each other. The birds, the trees, the oxygen, the fossil fuels. That by function of burning them and whatever we do incinerates and creates this global heat engine in which we're going to just not die from excessive heat, but the food supply will be diminished to the point where Vancouver will probably be a desert. It was once so thick with ice, you couldn't drill to get to the water. Think of the expanse, the complexity, the mystery, the torment, the hot furnace of life in its dimensions. And here we are as humanoids sitting in the midst of this big heat engine that many people on the stethoscope of environmentalism and scientific fact say that there's very little left in the heartbeat of planet Earth for the human civilization based upon the economic consumption demand of you, Alan. You. Your footprint is so fucking large because by function of being, you must use and therefore you abuse. We're in this terminal situation, locked into conditionality, that if you turn this way, you avoid that. No matter which way you go, you're always going in the opposite direction of totality's health. And that is the dilemma for me of meditation. It doesn't resolve the dilemma of existence. All it seems to do is preoccupy the individual, Mr. Clements, preoccupy the individual with your need to find personal peace. Propaganda. You, Mr. Clements, looking for stillness. Propaganda. You looking for the power of the now. Right now. Right here. Right now may be very, very, very cool if you're kissing someone you love. But there's a lot of life in that kiss that transcends the lips and the brain and the psyche and the source and the forefathers and mothers and the trees and the oxygen and the large expanse, way trans-existential. In the kiss there is eternity, no cliche intended. The now, propaganda. What about on the horizon of one's hope, they see a vision of caring for things larger than their own self-interest? What about having a moment that's so large it takes us out of the now and puts us into the functionality of a dimension of consideration for the unknown, the mystery, the imagination, using thought, using psyche, using source, using eroticism, using sex, reimagining what lovemaking is all about. That's all I'm talking about, is really reimagining the power of lovemaking. I'm not looking for a resolution anymore of the dilemma of birth. Fuck peace. I'm more fucking miserable and depressed today than I was even when I was depressed. Even when it was harder. And it isn't just because of a relationship that's transformed into something that vanished like a mirage on the horizon of beauty. It isn't just because I've given up a country that I love in Burma by being threatened and a wonderful woman there who's been vilified by the international media and the tragedy of that. It isn't just because I've lost 9 intimate, close family members in 2 years. It isn't just because family members were murdered last week. It isn't just because that the earth is in terminal state of hospice. It's because I have lost my significance to hope, to the meaning of vision, to what gets me up in the morning, the why made real and manifest as a feeling body of dignity and passion. It's because I've been confined by the sacred, unsacred architecture of repositioned language that has constrained me into servitude based upon the entrapment of how I define my life. Language, we'll get into that next week. The imprisonment of language and how if we do not break our own cultness and unrecognized servitude to how we define entrapment, servitude, liberation, circumstance, culture, peace, and human rights. Look what we've done in the name of intellectualism. Look what we've done in the name of prosperity. We're killed ourselves, and just about 90% of the species will go down with us. What's the point of even going to a meditation retreat. What's the point of personal peace anymore? One person at a time? We need a radical shift, an opposite of a tsunami. We need a convulsion in the conscience of the collective to erupt a new form of lovemaking that immediately ripples through the heartbeats of all living sentient things, and the trees and the fuels and the people and the languages, and it relaxes at the core level of soul and DNA where that confluence meets. Hear me. We need to find a new language of transformation, a mindful intelligence that transforms beyond meditation and stillness and the power of the now, and compassion and hope and the basic greening of a planet that's dying. We need to find a radical solution. And to me, it's crossing the great frontier of the known into the hyper-vulnerable. A new form of lovemaking. I'm calling for a new form of lovemaking. I had been in a relationship for up to 2 years, making love in the ways that were the most phenomenal, the most mindful, the most tender, the most sensitive, the most beautiful, leaning back rather than forward, not harder, faster, deeper, gross, but tender, loving, poetic. And even so, love making isn't about being physical. Look at our faces, look at our bodies, the young, the littlers, the olders, the elders. Look, if we just had a fast-moving frame of the molecular structure of existence, and all of a sudden my face turned into 72, 85, 99, 116, frail, bent over, and all of a sudden I disintegrate before your eyes like a phantasm, a mirage, and a new generation is born only to live for 10 years before the earth ends, and it's arid for 1,000,000 years. And regeneration, there's a cloud, there's a raindrop, and all of a sudden in that raindrop, it drops just one drop of water on 1,000,000 years of sand. That's our habitat. And that isn't even talking about time. That's nanosecond time. That's now. So what does this new lovemaking have to do with existence? Re-envisioning is what I'm saying. Re-envisioning everything that matters to us. Re-envisioning the meaning of meditation. Re-envisioning the meaning of mindfulness. Re-envisioning the meaning of loving. Re-envisioning the meaning of sexuality. Re-envisioning the meaning of making love. Let me end with this. You know, it's so easy to make love with bodies, even if you're tantrified. But to make love with one's lover's thoughts, take it out of face and body. If I imagined sometime when I was with my former lover, if I was blind, she was beautiful, and if I was blind, how would I actually feel and caress and touch this form that I never saw, except the gift that there was a loveness in this spirit that brought us together, and we made love with the eyes of the soul awakened, with the eyes of the body dimmed. And all of a sudden I woke up and this person was not even the person who I imagined her to be. She was 85. And I went, my God, I have no cultural conditioning to think that by age she ripens, all of us ripen, and the body deteriorates. Making love physical is not my thing. Reimagining how to make love with one's lover's mind. If we could learn to make love with each other's thoughts. Think of a lover right now. Someone that you really once loved or had loved, and you're holding hands and you're physically intimate. Yes, we're embodied creatures. But to enter the poetic, to enter the cellular, to enter the gaze of shared spaces together and feel the same energy of sensation that transcends physical contact, but it's psychical. Now you're in a state of pre-intuitive lovemaking. You're feeling deeply immersed in each other's spirit. And now you're taking the time out of the process. You're taking the culture out of the process. You're taking the conditioning out of the relationship. You're listening to the heartbeat of her or his soul. Have we lost the capacity to hear each other's soul? To hear beyond the din of propaganda, culturalism, consumerism, need, and conventional spirituality and all the propaganda that comes to a bestseller that tells us this is the way to fix the problem of being alive? What about simply the unorthodox, unbelievably mysterious, completely unexplainable chemistry of pure listening to each other's souls? Why don't we do that? Why? What does it mean to be in the present, to be mindful of my mind? Take it off of you. Risk the vulnerability of other. Everywhere you go, Alan, every person that you meet, every bird that you see, every squirrel that you see running up the tree, every bird, every fish that's being depleted from the ocean, every turtle that's dying, everything, listening to the soul of the other on the horizon of hope in one's own consciousness, and learning a new form of love making. Trans-tantric. You're not going to repeat it again. You're going to make contact with another person, Alan, in a way that you've never done it before, to meet them for the first time. You have an obligation to care for that communication. Is there another way to understand the nature of being alive in a relationship that's unoptional? We are embedded creatures in this conditioning. We cannot escape it. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll close with this. I wrote a little note to my daughter yesterday. I told her a little story. I said, sweetheart, she's 11. I said, when I was really young, even younger than you, I was painting a lot and drawing. And my dad, he was in the house and came and saw what I was drawing. And he said, that's really beautiful. And he really encouraged me to continue to explore the treasures of my creative heart. And I don't know how old I was or how old he was, but he went on to say that I joined the Navy at 17 and traveled the world, and I loved photography, and I brought a camera with me everywhere I went and photographed just about anything and everything. And I knew that he liked photography. But I never really had the courage to make it my life. I worked for a living. Explore those treasures, he said. Make real on them. See them, feel them, bring them forth, my words. Well, my dad died last year, 96. I was with my brother in Texas. I hadn't seen him since the funeral. And he opened up a closet about the size of that closet over there, pretty large, 10 by 10. You know what was in that closet? Maybe 200, maybe 300 photo albums of my father's photography that were stashed away in the attic of our house that I never saw. My whole life. Hidden. He had the courage to photograph, but not the courage to bring them forth. And I opened those photographic books, and I sat there. I maybe looked through 10 of them in a week, and there were 200 or 300 of them. And they started back when he was 15, 16, 17, 18, in Spain, in Italy, in Africa. I never knew these things. He with girlfriends prior to my mom, his wedding, my birth, hundreds of pictures of me I'd never seen. Who is that guy? And I cried. I cried because I never had the courage to ask him why he loved photography so much. I never knew. I never inquired about his soul. And so, can we close tonight with an opening? A new lovemaking that goes beyond the physical. Divine as that is. It gazes into each other's eyes, into eternity, the poetic. Let us learn to make love with each other's minds, thoughts, psyches. The good, the difficult, and the shadow too. I'm committed to including that, you beautiful woman. I'm willing to include your doubt, even of me. I want to make love with that part of you as that part of me. Without lovemaking, there's divisiveness and war. There's patriarchy and domination and violence. Call this the divine feminine, the relaxation of polarity, divisiveness, patriarchy, and I will say it very bluntly, white male privilege, a driving force in the death of this planet. We have identified a problem, but deeper than that, in our own worlds, let us show by example the power of a new love-making, not the power of love, but a love-making energy that says to you as brother and sister, I want to know you. I want to know all of you. I want to know what you fear, what you doubt, how you hold me apart from you. I want to break bread with you. I want to share wine with you. I want to make love with your mind. I don't need to have you as my lover. You are a lover by nature of being a cohabitant on this ambient world that's terminal. In an eternity that may be beyond that, I don't know. But death is just over there from me, for all of us. And let us celebrate with the new victory of leaving here tonight, of finding the heartbeat in the breath of another's soul and learning the high art of that spiritual poetry called a higher love, a higher vibrational love. Let us learn to fall in love with the higher vibration, the highest vibration that we can vibrate and bring into frequency, into mutual frequency together. Let us cut through the apathy, the fear, the divisiveness, the bills, the rent, anything that divides, and dedicate ourselves to the highest form of love possible. Namaste. That has been Alan Clements Uncensored. Thank you for listening. You can find the entire list of my podcasts at alanclements.com, along with my books and upcoming events and live broadcasts. In addition, You can also book a private session with me if you wish by phone or Skype on the website. If you're a regular listener or simply feel moved to support my work, you can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation, a tax-deductible one, in any amount you feel comfortable, either on the support page of alanclements.com or a monthly pledge through my Patreon site at patreon.com/alanclements. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and thank you for sharing word of it among your friends and on social media. Thank you from my heart. Until the next time, blaze on with fearless love.